Hello, all you beautiful ladies and classy gentlemen out there. This is your last call for insight, and I figured I would actually do a very short live stream today. I'm actually working on a avatar, a animated avatar that we got going on here. It's going to take me a little bit of time. It was actually functioning properly, all things considered. It not only animates and moves and does everything as I move. That way, when I appear on live stream shows or other people's live streams or create future content, uh, this is definitely going to be a major asset that I end up using. But I wanted to be able to touch briefly on a lot of the news that's going on today in regards to Joe Rogan and his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. Uh, if you're unfamiliar with Joe Rogan, he has a very popular podcast where he not only talks about literally almost everything, has quite a few famous people been on there, including Elon Musk and a few other celebrities. However, due to some very controversial videos from his podcast that arose, he's actually under fire by not only a lot of news companies, but also a very woke group trying to get him canceled over not only several uses of the N word, but also other topics that I think specifically even our government doesn't necessarily want us to be talking about in regards to the bug. But we're neither for or against, and we remain neutral. But I wanted to just briefly kind of discuss this while I'm working on some of these assets. So basically what had happened, he was first accused for allegedly misinforming people in regards to the bug vaccine, which had sparked quite a few artists wanting to pull their music from Spotify. And if you haven't already, make sure you grab your favorite beverage of choice. I'm going to grab my favorite cold beverage. I love my watermelon Red Bull, however, we're not sponsored, so in the future I won't say what it is that I'm drinking unless, of course, Red Bull wants to come along and give me a sponsorship. But energy drink bad. So after the alleged misinformation in regards to vaccines and everything, there were several clips from the Rogan podcast experience that had been uncovered from roughly about 10-ish years ago, in which they had basically made a compilement of these videos of him using the N word multiple times. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Joe Rogan in regards to what he does, again, in far as his podcast, he's also a comedian, so he could be looked at in similar fashion as either Bill Burr or Dave Chappelle, and kind of the friction involved with as culture and society moves forward, there's definitely some things that there are quite a few groups that don't want you talking about in a certain manner. But the interesting development was Spotify had pulled 113 of his episodes off the streaming platform. And of course, he's already under contract for them, but they decide to pull it off. So, with this being a shock that Spotify not only pulled it, he was actually publicly approached by Rumble, who has a content platform themselves offering Joe Rogan $100 million over 4 years to bring all of his episodes to their service. And the Rumble CEO, Chris Pavlotsky, even quoted that he would allow him freedom of speech and free reign for him to continue to do his podcast over there. Now, I personally haven't used Rumble, but I think this is actually something that could be a very competitive move, especially for content creators of a certain size, and let's say they're not Joe Rogan size, if they're considerably smaller and you have a disruption in the delivery of your content, it can be extremely difficult. Since Joe Rogan has multiple sponsors and multiple streams of income, I wouldn't necessarily look at this as being a financial challenge, more so a challenge of freedom of speech and his ability to disperse information on his platform. So I think it's actually a very wise decision from Rumble to want to approach Joe Rogan as far as trying to rival not only Spotify but also YouTube as far as getting one of the major uh, podcast creators on their platform. It'll be interesting to see if not only he does move over to it, but I would be very curious. The CEO of Rumble has positioned himself um, with this particular tweet that this is our chance to save the world. It's a very bold claim, not only to be able to, while allowing Joe Rogan to move to their podcast, it not only is a very strong stand as far as freedom of speech, just the post is definitely going to gain some traction as far as the camaraderie for Joe Rogan's podcast fans, as well as other content creators that will look at, well, if Rumble will back Joe Rogan, they should definitely back me as far as the content that I create. It'll be very interesting to see, especially as we kind of continue forward and the challenges towards censorship of creating content. And again, I want to say content that isn't necessarily going against any direct person. If a podcast is known for always speaking about controversial topics, regardless of what it is, then I would be less apt to accuse them than if they were specifically attacking one group constantly over and over again, repeating hate speech and all that other very deconstructive content. And I know there may be some out there that, may either A, do not like Joe Rogan, and that is perfectly fine. Um, Again, we are remaining neutral as far as the news that we're reporting. However, I think as far as being able to maintain what we all agree on to be freedom of speech is definitely something that's worth protecting. The fact that we can walk down the street and if we don't necessarily like anything, we can say our grievances, we can complain. We have those particular freedoms when in other countries they don't necessarily have those. So, as far as me in general, I'm very thankful for the freedoms that I've been provided living in America, but at the same time, it is important to revisit a lot of the rules. And I'm not saying this in a negative way or in a positive way, but I think as society continues and we require new laws or we have new needs as a group, it's definitely important to consider all of our options. I apologize, I've been doing more talking than actually working on my art here. So, what I'm going to go ahead and do, I've said my piece in regards to the Joe Rogan Experience. I'm hoping this is actually the right eye. I'm just going to put left eye. I'm going to go ahead and keep working on this particular art piece because I want to get it done. That way I can actually use this in hopes that the next time I either join someone's live stream, I can at least have something to show on camera versus just showing my actual marquee. So I think it's always important to try to improve quality for everyone that watches. And again, I'm trying my best to, oops, I did not mean to do that. Trying my best to not only bring you all new things and hopefully promote more conversation. If by chance you're new to the channel, this is Last Call for Insight. I try to have honest conversations and bring forth conversations current conversations in a more digestible manner, either using humor, comedy, animation, and of course remixing them all together. If by chance this is your first time here, consider subscribing or take a look around the channel to see if there's other content that you enjoy. And remember, you are always welcome here, but we sure as hell aren't for everyone.